Anytime we can have representation that reflects our community, I think that's a positive thing.
Developing now, it's an historic day for the city of Tulsa as 6 women were inducted into the city council. That's a record number. 2 Works For You reporter Megan Allison shows us what the newly elected leaders hope to bring to their roles.
3 new women were inaugurated here at the University of Tulsa today and tell us they're taking this moment to appreciate their mark on the city's history.
The charter of the city of Tulsa.
For the first time, the number of women sworn into city council outnumbered men by a 2-to-1 ratio. Krista Patrick is following in the footsteps of her family. Patrick's uncle was the first councilor for District 3 when the charter changed, and her father was the longest-running councilman for Tulsa.
It was ingrained in me from an early age that everyone should be a public servant, not a politician, but a public servant. We're here to help make our area better.
For others, the path wasn't always as clear. Lori Dector Wright will serve District 7 after moving to Tulsa 10 years ago, continuing a career as an opera singer.
It's certainly different than opera, but in a lot of ways, you know, it's about connecting and raising the voice of the people that need to be heard.
Kara Joy McKee wasn't sure if she would ever become a mother or city councilor. She became pregnant after deciding to run for office.
I thought, am I going to be horribly nauseated on the campaign trail? Oklahoma summer, first trimester, knocking doors, that was hard. But if I can do that, I can handle anything.
Now this group hopes to set an example for their children and women across the city.
I hope someday having women in leadership isn't a news story, and that will mean that we have turned that corner. And so if we're setting that tone now, I'm thrilled to be a part of that.
All of the newly inducted councilors say they believe the city is making progress and they're excited to be a part of it. Reporting in Tulsa, Megan Allison, 2 Works For You.
And developing tonight in our nation's capital, thousands of people just pouring through the Capitol Rotunda, honoring the life and service of former President George H.W. Bush.
We have a live look at the first of 4 days of public memorials and tributes. You can see even at this hour, people are in the Capitol Rotunda paying their respects. NBC's Jay Gray is there tonight with how America is mourning.
Among the thousands pausing to say goodbye tonight, President Trump and First Lady Melania, as former President George H.W. Bush returns to Washington one last time.
In consequential times, George Herbert Walker Bush demonstrated the finest qualities of our nation and of humankind.
Dignitaries, family, and friends honoring his lifetime of service as a fighter pilot shot down during World War II, a congressman, ambassador, director of the CIA, vice president, then president.
We thank you for sharing this special man with our nation and the world.
And out of office, he championed a host of charitable causes until his final few years when illness confined President Bush to a wheelchair and his thoughts turned to what was next.
I used to worry about death and all. I don't anymore. But I have a feeling there's an afterlife, and I have a feeling it's a good one.
Well-deserved for a patriot president, and the cornerstone of an era of civility and politics many fear is now gone with his passing. Jay Gray, NBC News, Washington.
A woman who calls Tulsa home worked for 3 presidential administrations, including former President George H.W. Bush. Kim Fuller started working in D.C. when she was only 22. She worked for the Reagan administration for 3 years before being named the press advance for Bush Sr. She essentially was in charge of his daily schedule.
He would play golf, then he'd go out on the boat, and then he'd go for a run, and then he'd play tennis. I mean, he was the most energetic person in Kennebunkport, and he was not unlike that when we were on the road for official visits.
Fuller plans to go to College Station, Texas on Thursday, where the president will be buried alongside his wife Barbara and their daughter Robin.
Other Oklahomans also paying their respects to the president known as 41, including former U.S. Senator Don Nichols. He made many trips with the senior Bush, including a campaign stop in Enid back in 1992. Nichols called the former president a great world leader and more prepared than anyone in U.S. history. President Bush made many stops in Oklahoma throughout the years, including Oklahoma State University in 1990.
Sorry Barbara couldn't be with me here. She did tell me to get a beer and some cheese fries over at Eskimo Joe's.
There you go, some famous cheese fries. The owner of Eskimo Joe's, by the way, Stan Clark, among many other Oklahomans who are remembering former President Bush tonight. For more on the funeral plans for President Bush and to look at a slideshow of his presidency throughout the years, just head to our website, KJRH.com, or go to our free 2 Works For You app.
In 60 seconds, an Oklahoma City just devastated after their longtime Santa is hit by a car. We check in on how he's recovering tonight.
But first, it may sound old-fashioned, but doctors are making house calls again, and right here in Oklahoma. We'll show you how it works when we return in 1 minute.
Work.
Welcome back. New at 10. A lot of changes heading our way when we file our taxes here in the coming months. Tough to think about right now, but an H&R Block survey says almost half of us think we'll get bigger refunds because of the new tax law. New data shows that is not the case, and some might even owe money. So here's a look at who will save under the new tax reform. Families with children may get the biggest refunds in comparison to years past. Some homeowners and people who itemize are expected to get a smaller refund, though, or even owe money.
New tonight, when you're sick or you're injured, just getting out of bed can be difficult enough. But when you need to see a doctor, wouldn't it be nice to wait your turn from the comfort of your own home? Well, that is what's happening thanks to a new app called Dispatch Health. They will chat with you, make sure it's not something more serious that requires a trip to the ER, and then the goal is to get a nurse practitioner and an EMT to you in 90 minutes.
They gave me an IV right here. I mean, I didn't have to go anyplace.
If you think about like a young mom that has 3 or 4 little kids that are sick, and that's kind of the worst thing that you want to have to do is go lug your kids to an urgent care or an emergency room and have them crawling around on the dirty floor.
Your copay for the service is the same as urgent care, and if you don't have insurance, there's a flat fee of $270. Right now, they only offer the service in Oklahoma City, but the company says it does plan to expand to other cities in Oklahoma soon. New at 10, Christmas trees popping up all across green country, and more of them are organic.
That's right. It's a growing trend here across the country. The festive trees grown without pesticides or chemicals. One nursery worker we spoke to said for years her doctors told her she was allergic to the trees, but once she turned to an organic tree, her problems went away.
My ENT said, no more Christmas trees for you about 15 years ago, and had never been allergic as a child. And so I started researching at that time some, and eventually found out, hey, it's not the tree, it's the chemicals.
Growers say organic trees tend to be fuller and have better color.
New tonight, in Oklahoma City just devastated after their Santa was hit by a car. Don Mason has played the part in Norman for decades, and we sat down with his friends to see how he's recovering.
We all know him and love him.
This plaque inside the high school is Don Mason, who retired as a technical director 2 years ago. But many in the city know the 74-year-old as Old St. Nick.
This is his not only busy time, but he makes all his extra income during this time period.
Longtime friend Pete Franklin says Mason had to cancel nearly 20 appearances as Santa Claus for the rest of the year after a car smashed into him Friday night. He entered the crosswalk while heading to a play with his wife on OU's campus.
He's fractured both legs and then broke his pelvis.
He was very alert, very cheerful.
The city of Norman now replacing Mason for their annual Christmas parade, the first time in decades.
Now we're all worried and we want to help him get through Christmas.
It was thousands of dollars that he was going to be out of pocket with because of he not being able to work.
Oh, we wish him well. And according to the OU Daily, the University of Oklahoma's newspaper, campus police don't have any information about the driver of that vehicle.